We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
Welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. Tonight you are part of the 11th house, and on tonight's show we, as always on Sunday evening, talk about astrology. How is everybody out there? It is another warm, balmy, semi-tropical night in South Central Texas. Just got back from a very long weekend. Started on Wednesday, actually, in Laredo. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Laredo or not. I'm not going to recommend it. It's not, don't put it on your bucket list unless you are really into extremely slow drivers, decent Mexican food, scorching hot weather, and a sense of a dilapidated American city, which is no longer an American city. For all intents and purposes, Laredo is now Mexico, and the nearest border city really is San Antonio. Just got back from a weekend of playing some very intense baseball, and unfortunately, we got stopped in our tracks. And it was an incredible game today. The boys were up 17-16 with 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th inning, which is the last inning that they play in Pony Baseball. And kid on the other team got a 2-run double, and that was it. The game was over. We played 2 games today. We played our nemesis from South Texas, a team in Harlingen, which we've played before. And it was actually an incredible day. And the thing that I love about baseball and sports, when it's pure, when it's really, really pure. Of course, Mars is in Sagittarius. Let me just see here. Yeah, Mars is in Sag. And it's right on my ascendant. I'm sorry, Scorpio. It goes into Sag tomorrow. It's a 29 Scorpio, so it's right on my ascendant tonight and today. And boy, was I feeling it. I was so feeling Mars today. It was very intense. I was channeling Mars. I was channeling Mars yesterday, and one of the baseball moms had to go to the other side of the benches because I was too intense. She told me to take a Zen breath. I asked her, "Is that a mint? Is a Zen breath a mint? Can you get them in Laredo?" I don't think you can get Zen breaths in Laredo. It was an amazing time, and so many things happened on so many different levels, from a parental level to, kind of a peer level and a parent level and as a human being level. There's so many things happened over the course of those last 4 days. On Friday night, I decided I was going to bond with one of the locals. Very interesting character. His name was Hector Moncias, and Hector had really never been past Hebronville, which is about 50 miles away from Laredo. And Hector was an Aries. He told me he was an Aries. He was born on April 15th, Tax Day. And Hector was quite a character. Asked me if I'd ever seen the devil. But first he asked me if I was religious. Do I believe in God? I said, well, yeah. He says, have you ever seen the devil? I said, well, I've had some interesting encounters. And he says, I have. I've seen the devil 3 times. And one time, he was a woman. And we started to laugh. And of course, we got to this point where the devil was a shapeshifter. I brought that up. And we talked about Nostradamus. And he asked me if I knew about Nostradamus. I said, yeah, I was Nostradamus in a past life. And he laughed. He chuckled. And then he asked me later on if I'd ever seen an angel. And he said, I've been going to chapel for the last 6 years, and I saw an angel about 6 months ago walking to the church. And he told me the story about his angel. Interesting character. And just so many things happened. And one of the things that happened was I watched my son really struggle for the first time with playing baseball. It was very difficult to watch for him. And me as a parent, I'm willing to kind of let go of any kind of expectations. Of course, it's always great when your son plays because plays well because you identify with it and there's some sort of blood transmission that takes place, right? But he struggled. And it's the first time I've really seen him struggle at this level of baseball and didn't play very much. So, I went from, being the dad that was, self-identifying to the supportive dad and the loving dad and trying to really help him find his way through the experience, which was very difficult, to be honest with you, because he experienced nothing but success. So this was a big weekend for that. And, just hanging out with the parents on the team, most of whom are really cool, but many of whom, if we weren't a part of a team, I probably would not have a whole lot to do with them. And it's clear that I wouldn't because even though we're part of the team, I don't have any real social interaction with most of these parents. But I was feeling Mars on my ascendant. I was whipping up the masses. I was a force to be reckoned with. And the boys almost won. They almost beat their nemesis from South Texas, Harlingen, the Titans. Of course, Titan, the moon of Saturn. And they are very Saturnian-like. They're a machine. They get there an hour before the game, do their calisthenics and exercises. It's actually a fascinating thing to watch. Valley baseball in Texas is a complete culture unto itself. So we have the Cancer moon right now at 17 degrees. It's going to flip, and we're going Leo full moon here. Leo new moon in just a couple of days. So we are at balsamic phase. We are disseminating, and we are disseminating the things that we cling to. This is what's happening. And my son happens to be a Cancer rising. Had we been able to get to tomorrow, the moon might have been right on his ascendant, but it was been in his 12th house conjuncting his natal Saturn over the course of most of the day. That's been hard. It's been a tough moon phase. But in disseminating moon, now for some of you who are not familiar with the term disseminating moon, it is the final phase. It is the balsamic moon, and it's just before the moon turns new. And if you have this in your chart, then one of the things that's appropriate with your life is that you have to give things away. If you were born with the balsamic moon, you surrender, you dissolve, you let go. And when we get into balsamic phase, at this point in time, with Leo, it is very difficult. Very, very difficult, because the balsamic moon is in Cancer, and Cancer wants to cling. Cancer wants to survive. Cancer wants to hold on to things. You know, as a sign, it is the most nostalgic sign that there is, Cancer. And the Cancer moon is incredibly nostalgic, looking backwards and being able to identify with memories and emotions that have happened in the past. And for me, again, I'm just going to bring it into the personal. For me, what it brought up was the last really 2 years, even 3 years of, playing this travel baseball with my son, most of which has been incredibly positive. Last season, peak experience. He did great. The team did great. And it was wonderful. Fantastic. And this year, a little bit different, kind of an up and down, spiky season. But again, I was thinking back of those last 3 years, and really in my own way, having to let go of sort of my level of expectation and my level of even participation to some extent. It's a very powerful, powerful moon when we get into balsamic disseminating Cancer. And I don't know if anybody else has been emotional today, but there are things that we let go of under this moon. And one of them is just what I shared, in the last few minutes. What else can we say about the Cancer moon? Disseminating phase, balsamic. Well, one of the things we can say is that it's conjunct the United States sun, also in Cancer, and has been throughout the course of the day. And perhaps what we're all sort of working on and working through is this idea of what America is and what it was. And of course, Donald Trump, with 3 planets in Cancer, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn, has a very strong emotional, if patrician, with Saturn being involved, identification with an idea and an ideal of America. When Trump spouts "Make America Great Again," he's not bullshitting. He is not saying something just to be a populist vote monger. I can tell you that right now, because that's not what Cancer does. Cancer is linked to this idea of the country as being a, how do I say this, a crucible. Think of Cancer cooking, right? Cancer loves to cook. Cancer loves to have a soup in the crock pot. The United States is a crock pot. Now, some people might say that Trump is a crackpot, but no, the United States is a crock pot. Think about this. We get all these different ingredients. We get carrots, we get peas, we get onions, we get meats. If you're a meat eater, you want that. If not, hey, it's America. You can have a vegetable soup. And we put it all together. All these disparate ingredients, we put it together and it simmers and it cooks and it's there. And you can just have it there, and during the winter months, you just scoop out a little and serve it. And, if you want to snack on it, it's just there. And sometimes you can pull it off and put it in the refrigerator and bring it out again. This is what Cancer is and does in the United States as a crock pot. And so when we have moon in Cancer, let me get back to Trump. And this is why Trump identifies with America. Trump is not a globalist. It was funny. We stopped on the way home, and we stopped at the infamous Jack Allen's, and I sat down, and there were these two women that were next to me, and they were talking politics. And I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great that women, men, whomever, talk politics. But it was really interesting for me to get the pulse of two, what I would call millennial women, under 30. And one of them said, she was actually pretty bright. So, I just can't see libertarianism working for the United States now. Not on the scale of the United States. And she's really talking about a form of globalism. That the United States needs to, stop, stomping its feet and join the global party. Okay? What she doesn't realize is that there are different models and that there are bioregional models. And the bioregional model is part of what we call synergy. And the synergistic model at a bioregional level allows these bioregions to have their own particular strengths and their own particular brands of uniqueness and their own particular brand of how they are going to live. And in this model, the quote-unquote libertarian mindset actually works. Now, what she doesn't understand is that most dyed-in-the-wool libertarians are for open borders. They're for open borders. So if she wants the United States to come to a globalist party, a global party, then the Libertarian Party or the true libertarian ideal is perfect because it is a global ideal. You open the borders. That's what libertarians are into. They're into no laws. They're about as anarchic as you can get as far as an ideal goes. I mean, and isn't this what our global leaders want? Isn't this what our elites want? So she's a little misinformed there. But anyway, it was interesting to see. They were bashing Trump. Oh, my God. There was the Trump hate was thick. Thick. And my son whispers into my ear, I think they're feminists. Oh, my God. My God. So we're in this disseminating moon, and we're letting go. We got to let go of stuff. It's hard. Cancer wants to cling. It wants to hold on. It wants to get those pinchers out. Get those. There's something liberating to letting go. It's tough. It's not easy. It's not easy. Letting go. Surrender. Not easy. But think of a crab who's sitting there perched on a cliff face, holding on to dear life. And the waves just batter the cliff face, right? That crab is holding on. And that's the metaphor. And then all of a sudden it lets go and a wave takes it out and the crab is relocated into the ocean. And it becomes a different kind of experience and medium. The level of threat is no longer birds swooping in. Now the level of threat is other animals or humans. But there's a sense of liberation. The crab is reunited with the medium from which it sprang from. Well, it actually sprang from probably the land, to be honest with you, but eventually went into the water. That's where it went. So letting go, surrendering on the disseminating moon is difficult, especially under Cancer. Other disseminating moons, not so difficult. The other balsamic moons, not so difficult. Not at all. Unless, of course, it's the balsamic Libra moon, then you don't know what to let go of. I could let go of it. I don't know that. I could let go of it. I don't want to let go. Yes, you can. No, you can't. I can't. No, you can't. Should I? Yeah, go ahead. No, I don't know. Sorry, having a little fun here tonight. But when the moon goes into Leo, we go from what? We go from cardinal to fixed. So the cardinality of the disseminating balsamic moon is urging urging you to make a change. Even Cancer that goes side to side and backwards. Even Cancer is catalytic. And then we move into fixed moon, Leo, new moon. And when that happens, then we have the potential for a surge of emotional energy. The heart opens. The heart opens on the Leo moon, the new moon. But how does it open? It opens once we surrender and let go through disseminating Cancer balsamic. And then joins the conjunctio between the sun and the moon in Leo. And we have the fire of the heart, we have the fire of the emotion, we have passion, we have the potential to create something new. Wherever Leo shows up in your chart, that's where it's happening. That's where the potential for something new comes into play. Our good friend Mercury's at 2 Virgo, very early Virgo. I have a new post up on my site. I talked about this a little bit. It was inspired by my trip to Laredo and some of the things that I've been through over the course of my life. And I detail what it's like to smell a decrepit and rotting corpse. And I essentially relate that to the Democratic National Convention and the party. You can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and check that out. Mercury in Virgo, and this is going to be in Virgo, Mercury, until the end of the month on the 31st at 29 degrees Virgo. Anoretic, it goes backwards and retrograde, and we are in our next retrograde phase cycle. And that's a tricky one. Tricky for me because it's at that 29th degree, the anoretic degree. It's like we are so close to some form of accord, some form of balance, some form of harmony at an individual level and at a collective level. And all of a sudden, we get wrenched backwards into the critical and discerning Virgoan minds. And this is a tricky time, very tricky time, because there's a lot of momentum kind of ramping up. And at that 29th degree, people change their minds, people move backwards, people jump tracks. So you got to be careful in a few weeks here. Got to make sure that the choices you're making are really, really, really in alignment with the momentum that's been coming since right about now. And of course, we get into the shadow of Mercury retrograde, right? We get into that shadow phase. But for now, this is actually, look, Mercury's in its own sign in Virgo. And wherever it's showing up in your chart, that's where you get switched on. That's where you're really efficient. That's where you're really focused. That's where you have your ability to discern and analyze and essentially put together an idea for change or fixing something or, solving a problem. It's a very interesting relationship between Virgo and Scorpio. I think I've talked about this before. If you haven't heard it, if you look at the symbol of Virgo, it's the M with the legs crossed, right? And then if you look at Scorpio, the legs are uncrossed, and of course, what do we have? We have the M as a tail or an erection. So we have the virginal legs and we have the tail as the erection. And both Virgo and Scorpio share similar characteristics. They are both into the acquisition of data. They are into, but the data that they're into acquiring is different. Virgo wants mental data and it wants data for a purpose. a specific purpose, which is to create a solution. Scorpio is into data. It's into psychic data, mental data too, but mostly psychic, psychological. And it's not always looking to create a solution. It's looking to create a profile. Scorpio, especially Mercury and Scorpio. So the two are very interesting and linked signs. And then Libra is in between. Libra brings the balance between the M with the cross legs and the M with the erection. We also have Jupiter in Virgo, and we're going to have a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction. And that's going to be pretty interesting. And that's going to be happening just before the 31st. So we do a little math here, okay? So if we have 31st, then we have, let's go back, and that's a 29, right? 29 degrees. Let's just, well, hold on. I just want to find this out now, because let's see where Jupiter is. Hold on. I want to give you correct data. No skimping around these parts. Okay, so we're in astrology. I'm looking at the ephemeris. Okay, so we got Mercury in Virgo conjuncting Jupiter. And let's see what we got here. Yep. So the two are going to be conjunct on the 21st of August, and on the 22nd, Jupiter moves slightly ahead, and then the conjunction comes back again on the 23rd, but as close to exact as possible. Now, on the 22nd, apparently, Antares is going to be conjunct Mars. Now, this is an interesting conjunction, because we also have a Mars-Saturn conjunction going on right there on the 22nd. And the 23rd, they go pretty much about as close to exact as possible. I guess really what we're looking at is the 24th. 24th, right around the 24th. So between the 23rd and 24th, those 2 days, we've got a Mars-Saturn conjunction, and then Antares, which is very similar to Mars, energy as a fixed star, is going to be right there. If you look up in the sky, and if you had one of those phone apps like I have, you would be able to see that there is a triangle that is comprised of Mars and Saturn and Antares, and that's going to get closer and closer together. The triangle is going to get smaller as these three bodies come together. Now, how can we interpret this? Well, if Antares is related to Mars energy, and we have Mars and Sagittarius, we're getting a double dip of Mars. We're getting fixed star Antares Mars. Why don't I read you the definition for Antares? Let's see if I can find it here. I got it close. Hold on. Let's see where it is. Come on now. I hate it when my computer freezes. That is not a fun thing. Here we go. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Hold on. Let me find this. Okay, here we go. So Antares is a royal star. It is connected to the archangel Oriel, the watcher of the West. It is the spirit of adventure. Obstinacy is connected to the injury or injury to the eyes. Honors, it also represents sudden loss. It is stubborn, suspicious, and violent. This, according to my buddy Rob Tillett. Haven't talked to Rob in a long time. He's a good guy, though. Good guy. He's done a lot of good work on fixed stars. And it exists at 9 degrees Sagittarius. How about that? This is why the fixed stars don't move. They don't move. If they move very, 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 very slowly and over time. So it is at 9 Sag, ruled by Mars, Jupiter, Mercury. It is in Alpha Scorpii. Alpha Scorpii. So we're going to have all this intense energy, this intense Mars energy, both from Antares and from Mars in Sagittarius, combining the desire to be free, the desire to be authentic. You know, half of Sagittarius is a horse and the other half is a man. And the horse part of Sagittarius just wants to run across the plains, be free. Saturn comes in and says, whoa, Nelly, wait a minute. We got to put the reins on that freedom thing. You got to put the reins on it. Yeah, that's right. You uppity humans are getting too much of an attitude. You really think you're free. You really think you're waking up. You really think that you're authentic, that you can run your own show. Well, you got another thing coming, boys and girls, because Saturn has the final say in all this. At least that's what they think, and that's what they say. This brings up, of course, the cosmology of the law of one and the sons of Belial. If you're not familiar, the law of one and the sons of Belial ran the show way back when, Atlantean times. We basically have the Pleiadians and the Orions. And I am assuming it's the Pleiadians, although it could be wrong here. The Pleiadians are the ones that wanted to, hey, look, let them run their own show. Let them figure it out. And the Orions are, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're going to be controlled. We're going to control these people. We're going to control this brutish species that we have created. They need our supervision. They need our guidance. Without us, they're just savages. They're just genetic experiments. Savage at best. And so the law of one and the sons of Belial have been interacting over the course of time. And they have been doing their best in their own unique ways in order to run the show. So when we have Saturn on top of Mars, Saturn on top of Antares, look out. Because it's that moment in time when things could get rather rigid. And I'm talking rigid in a sense that we don't really want rigid to be thrust into our lives. We have another shooting in Texas. Texas, by the way, is at the crosshairs. You're going to read more and more and more about Texas. You're going to read more and more about shootings. Some of them might be real. Most of them won't be. They want to take the guns away. Texans are armed to the third eye. And not only are they armed to the third eye, we've got open carry here. We've got school coming back in at UT and other campuses across the state. But UT is the hub. By the way, UT has, check this out, the selected works, the selected and collected works of Aleister Crowley. They're at UT. UT also has the Gutenberg Bible. So we have both the sacred and the profane right here in the center of Austin, which is at the university, and the library is in the center of the university. So the library and those books are at the center of the universe inside of Austin, which is the capital of Texas. And we have the Capitol not far from the library there at UT. Also has a bunch of Hemingway stuff there, manuscripts, all kinds of stuff. So Texas is in the crosshairs. They want to grab the guns. They want to disarm this place. So we're talking the 22nd, 23rd of August when these energies come together. All right, so that's at 9 degrees. Keep that in mind. We have 9 degrees. What else is happening on that day? Well, look at what we got here. We got Mr. Neptune, Poseidon, god of the underworld, the underwater underworld version. Basically Pluto at sea. That's what Poseidon is. He's Pluto at sea. Pluto's got the land thing covered. Poseidon's got the water thing covered. It's a whole different dimension of Neptune, right? Because there's that turgid, seething, frothy, intense suboceanic energy. Neptune is squaring Saturn. Neptune is squaring Mars. Neptune is squaring Antares. So what does that look like? Bloody. That's what it looks like to me. Is it real blood? I don't know. Hard to say. When Neptune comes to town, can't believe everything you see or everything you read. Squaring off against Mars, squaring off against Saturn, you get ugly. Okay, I mean, that's where we are, right? That's the nature of the universe right now. It's the nature of reality. Let's bring in another mutable planet, shall we? Let's get into, let's see. Well, we got the moon at, we want to stay in that 9-degree orb because that's when Antares and Mars are just kissing cousins there. Let's see what else we have mutable. Because the moon goes into Gemini. Goes into Gemini on the 25th. Well, that's when the information goes in a couple of different directions. When the moon goes into Gemini. But what else is mutable? Well, the true node is at 12 degrees, so it's right there, 3 degrees off. And I think that's about it. Venus is at 21. And we have, of course, Mercury getting ready to go retrograde. This end part of August is going to be super, super, super intense. I just really get a feeling that there's a major event that is prime for that part of the zodiac and that part of the month. Now, keep in mind that Mars and Antares are in the 12th house of the U.S. chart. The U.S. chart is, I believe, 15 degrees Sagittarius rising. So Saturn and Mars are in the United States 12th house. Boy, that's intense. That's really intense. And Neptune is in, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, opposite the United States natal Neptune at Virgo. So we have natal Neptune of the United States at Virgo, which I believe at 11 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just go into my United States chart here because I have it handy at all times. Now, why do I talk about the United States? Well, number one, I live here. And number two, it is the last kind of bastion, where the globalists, are trying to, knock the walls down and create, their new version of the EU. My God, what a mess that is. All right, let me go into my extended chart selection. And what we have here is going to the United States chart. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. USA, USA. Hold on a second. I know it's here somewhere. Come on now. I always have it available. Always. Okay, let me do this. Let me just do this. I don't know where it went. Hold on. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. I wanted the charts. Boys and girls. Okay, here it is. Neptune's at 22. You see, this is why I do these things. And the ascendant of Sagittarius is at 12. So we have 12 Sag rising, which I believe is the right sign, and Neptune at 22. So we have Mars and Antares and Saturn 3 degrees off of the U.S. ascendant, and Neptune at 10 degrees down in the U.S. 12th house. I'm sorry, 3rd house, rather. So we have a Neptune square to the ascendant of the U.S., and that's in the 3rd house it's transiting through the 3rd house. This is why we have things like WikiLeaks, which is leaking Neptune, 3rd house information onto the ascendant so that we have a better sense of Sagittarian truth. Now, here's an interesting development. Let's factor this in for a second. The Uranus, or Uranus, not the Uranus. Uranus in the United States chart is at 8 degrees Gemini. Holy smokes. So we're going to have Mars, Antares, and Saturn opposing Uranus here in Gemini at 8 degrees. Wow. We should see some fireworks on the 22nd and 23rd. And Uranus in Gemini is also in one Donald Trump's chart. And all of these Sagittarian planets are down in his, close to his 4th house. I have to do the demarcation there. But, Uranus wants to be free. Sometimes, and it's not the same kind of freedom Sagittarius has. Sagittarius is philosophical, it's ideological, and it can range from a lot of different kinds of latitudes. Doesn't always have to be religious, although people have a religious-like zeal over their freedom issues when it comes to Sagittarius. If you ever talk to a Marxist who bleeds Marx, you're dealing with the same kind of Sagittarian zeal. Sagittal systems, communism, Marxism, it's a system. Isms are also in the 11th house, but those are the isms that are experienced at a group level. The ideology of the ism comes out of the 9th house and comes out of Sagittarius. So here we have Uranus opposing, transiting Saturn. Here we have Mars, Antares, opposing natal Uranus Gemini in the U.S. chart. and the desire to break free is paramount. Remember, Uranus is radical. We have this Saturnian element, which is the man opposing Uranus and Gemini, which is this desire to be revolutionary and to play the devil's advocate, to play the other side. Boy, this is going to be an amazing time. Aren't you glad you're alive? Aren't you glad you're here to witness all of this? Look, it doesn't get much better than this in terms of, Earth theater. And that's what we're in. We're in Earth theater now. But the difference between Earth theater and cinematic theater is that in Earth theater, you're an actor. In cinematic theater, you're an observer. You can be both in Earth theater. Don't get me wrong. But just by the sole context that you're here, you're an actor on some level. Interesting. Absolutely interesting. The United States true node, by the way, or mean node, is at 7 Leo. 7 degrees Leo. How about that? That's why we are always on stage. That's why America likes to spread stuff. Although it is in the 8th house. So it's a little behind the scene in some ways, into power. To me, what this represents with the true node in the 8th house is that we've never fully divested ourselves from our relationship with our royal forebears. That's what the true node in the 8th house is. We've never fully divested ourselves from the relationship between the king and the queen of England. It's right there. It's in the 8th house. So in a couple of days, let's see. Ooh, that was today. That was on Sunday. So we've already gone to hold on. Yeah, we've gone to Sunday. The sun was on the United States true node. Happens every 31st of the year. That's when theoretically, the country should know where the hell it's going. Oh man, just love astrology. We're riffing a bit here, but there's a lot happening. This triple conjunction is going to be something else. Something else. And look, by the way, the Democrats, of course, chose Philadelphia for a very specific reason. They wanted to rebrand their own version of the Constitution. And maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe this is why Philadelphia was chosen as a symbolic location. Because if Hillary makes it to the Oval Office, that's exactly what she's going to do. She's going to rebrand the Constitution. Get ready for that. A lot of people will applaud it. They'll say, oh, it's about time, written by a bunch of old white dudes, slave owners, plantation owners, wealthy. Yep. Tear it up. We need a new Constitution. The Constitution is written by women, minorities, transgenders, chimeras, hybrids, people from other countries. That's what we need. Yes, it's coming. It's coming. Hillary gets elected. That's exactly what's going to happen. And the basis, the justification is exactly what I've just shared with you. Exactly. And the relative freedoms that piece of paper has afforded us, they'll go away. And they'll be replaced by something new. And that something new will be less free. Guarantee it. One of the things that we ran into on September 11th, 2001 is we ran into a modification of the Constitution. It's called the Patriot Act. And ever since we've had the Patriot Act, the Constitution has been much more watered down and mutable than it was when they drafted the darn thing. You know, if you look at where Mercury is, it's retrograde in the U.S. chart, which means that, you know, as an astrologer, I would say that the words that were written on that page are going to be, will be subject to review. And it's interesting because Jefferson, of course, was an esotericist. He knew about astrology, and so did Ben Franklin. And they chose to do this. They chose to finalize this draft and to sign it under Mercury retrograde. Isn't it interesting? And Pluto is also retrograde. So maybe what they thought with the retrograde is that, and I could be completely wrong, I'm just riffing, is that the power wielded by the plutocrats could be reversed at some point in time with the Mercury-Pluto opposition. Mercury in Cancer in the 8th house operates like Mercury in Scorpio. It's third decan, so it puts it where? It puts it in the Pisces decan, which makes it more mutable. Interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. Now, another thing that's going to happen is the United States has a Saturn at 14 degrees Libra. That's the natal Saturn, 14 degrees Libra. So a few years back, when Saturn was in Libra, the United States was going through another Saturn return. Another Saturn return. And with Saturn on the ascendant, or getting close, it is going to go through a bit of a rebirth here because, you know, when Saturn goes through the 12th house, it is cycling through the last 30 years that it has been in the chart. So it started off at 12 Sagittarius roughly 30 years ago, right? So we come to the end of a 30-year cycle. So let's go back in time. We got 2016, we got 2000, so we got 2006, it's 10, 96, it's 20, 1986. 1986 was the last time we went through a rebirth phase, a shedding phase. And what I'll do is I will go back and at the top of the hour, and I'll check out what was going on in 1986. That was in the middle of the Reagan era. It was in Reagan's last term. And there was a lot of perestroika going on. And this kind of newly emergent self was coming into play with the United States being the unquestioned world power, as the Soviet Union would essentially tear down the wall in the United States. Theoretically won the war against communism. Interesting time. We got a lot more going on here, just in terms of astrology and the planets this week. Talked about Mars, 29 Scorpio, anaretic degree. And then we move into Sagittarius. And it's a very fast-moving Mars. We cycle through Mars. It goes into Sagittarius fully on the 3rd. So it's at the anaretic degree for 2 more days. It's 0 Sag on the 3rd, and it just ramps up. Mars is just shot out of a cannon, and it goes into Capricorn on the 28th of September. So we've got roughly we have about 2 months of a wild ride with Mars and Sagittarius. All that pent-up energy that we've been dealing with Mars and Scorpio, Mars retrograde. I'm telling you, when it hits 0 Sag on Wednesday, it's going to be real interesting. Everything that people have been stewing and holding on to and burying with Mars retrograde is going to come out. It is going to come out, and people are going to start talking their truth, whatever the truth is, whatever their truth is. It's coming. Be ready. Be prepared. I can already see it. I heard it and saw it tonight at good old Jack Allen's. All right, what else do we have going on here? Hold on. Yes. We have Jupiter 22 Virgo, and that is pretty much out there by itself. Tomorrow, the moon will be in sextile with Jupiter. That'll be interesting. A lot of people caring for each other with that moon Jupiter sextile. A lot of care, a lot of concern, some healing energy available on an emotional level. It's a good time to listen. You know, with this disseminating moon in Cancer, just listen. People have moon in Cancer or Mercury in Cancer, boy, they are just great listeners. They're some of the best. Saturn 9, Sagittarius, that's what we're talking about here. There for a while because it's retrograde, right? And it moves forward, and that's why Mars catches up to it. Antares is there. Uranus 24, Aries, and it is in trine with Venus. How about that? Wow, interesting. That is a synchronistic connections with Uranus-Venus trines. Very interesting. A lot of creativity, Uranus-Venus trine. Do something creative tomorrow. I said that last week, didn't I? Try it again. Neptune, 11. Pisces going retrograde. Uranus is now retrograde. Saturn's retrograde. Pluto's retrograde. True Node's retrograde. Chiron's retrograde. Of course, the True Node goes backwards and forwards. But we got Chiron retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Saturn retrograde. Holy retrograde, Batman. It's a lot of going backwards. A lot of looking back into your own personal history, other people's personal histories. I pity Hillary Clinton. I pity Hillary Clinton because I don't pity her. But there's going to be a lot of backwards, retrieval, reversal energy. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. It'll be, there's plenty there for Trump too, don't get me wrong. Why don't I do this? We're at the top of the hour now, and I generally play music at the top of the hour. And when I get back, we'll talk a little bit about fixed stars. Oh, look at that. We got a lot of people on the line. 862-843-850. You guys hang in there. I'm going to play a piece of music. It's an extended track. It's going to be about 8 minutes long because I have to play my own music now. If I don't play my own music, then YouTube and Google get on my case, and I can't put these shows up on YouTube. So let me do this. This is a piece that I did. It's about 8 minutes long. Hang in there. I think you'll like it. It's called Hot Second Chakra. I made this during a phase of my life where I was a little pent up. You're listening to 11th House Radio. I'm Robert Phoenix. We'll be back to talk about fixed stars and do live readings. Don't go away. That's me, yours truly, a.k.a. Diamond Matrix. I think I made that about right around 2008, about 8 years ago. Hot Second Chakra. Welcome back to the show. You're listening to 11th House Radio. I'm Robert Phoenix, and we're going to get into some live readings here in a minute. But I've got a few pieces of business I want to attend to when we have the time at the top of the hour, which is what I normally like to do. If you have not been to my website, please check it out. And I've got a new piece up there. You can read all about my time in Laredo and the metaphors of where we are in terms of a culture as it relates to politics and some astrology. I also have if you're interested in learning about astrology, you still have some time to get the course, the 11th House Academy. And we're going to have a webinar this weekend. So if you join, you get the 16-hour course, you get a chart, you get a natal report, about 30 pages, and you're going to be a part of a 2-hour monthly webinar for the next 12 months. It's like school on Saturdays. It's like Saturday school or detention, but not really. You get to listen and participate, and we talk astrology for a couple hours. That's on my website. And I did this last week, and I'm going to do it again this week. It's going to be a little bit different this week. If you're listening to this broadcast, you hear this either on Blog Talk Radio or on YouTube. It's only going to be for 72 hours, though. 72 hours. You get, since everything's retrograde, pretty much, you get my old rate for an hour reading. It's $125. It's going to be a 72-hour window here, though, if you want that. Just email me, Robert Phoenix, or PM1122 at zoho.com, and we'll set that up. But you have to say you heard it on the show, and it only lasts from tonight until Wednesday. Okay. Why don't we take a call? Let's go to 843. They've been holding for the longest period of time. Hi there, and welcome to the show. Hello? Don't be shy. Just listening? Okay. Put you back in hold. Let's go to another caller then. How about the 862 number? Hello there.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Oh, a live listener. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing. Hearing about all these retrogrades.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, we're all looking back because so much is taking place and it's going so fast. People are up, and the misinformation is, you really don't know what you just know it's like we're being duped. I mean, I went and looked back at some of the speeches from the Democratic. It just seems so well, and you don't trust anymore.
Trust is out the window. There's no public trust anymore. It's gone. It's gone. Both parties, although Trump has engendered a how do I say this? A blind trust. It's more like a blind faith than a blind trust. And I suppose Hillary has some of that in her own way, in her own camp. But I believe that with Trump, he's really tapped in. He's like tapped into an artery, because there are people who, have not had, the Vox Populi represent them for a very long period of time in their own hearts and minds. So they have blind faith in the guy that's been able to somehow muster up the courage and stand down the mainstream media, both on the right and the left, because he took on Fox and he's taken on the left. So he's engendered some blind faith. I wouldn't necessarily call it trust. I wouldn't trust Donald Trump. But if I was in business and I was his adversary, I wouldn't trust him either. Because he's got that Sun-Uranus conjunction, and he can do anything at any time in Gemini, which could be good if we're looking for some chaos to throw at the big globalist machine. That might actually be okay for a while. But, there's always the other side with Gemini and what comes along with it. So let's say Trump throws a big monkey wrench in the globalist plan, but at the same time wants to put, cameras and microphones in every single car or on every single street corner because he wants more intelligence to defeat ISIS. And then we get the other side of that. And then you're always going to have a little bit of that with Trump. You're always going to see like something that you could theoretically throw down with, but then there's going to be okay, well, let's see art of the deal. This is what he does. He makes deals. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if he is elected, and it's a big if, although the poll numbers are showing, whatever the polls, skewed as they are revealing at this point in time. Look, reality is misty. It is a mist generator. I don't know if you've ever been to California in the summertime, but California in the summertime in the Bay Area, they have what's called the inversion effect. And so you have the Central Valley, which is really hot, and it's like a vacuum, and this heat vacuum sucks in the moisture off the coast, and so you get all this intense fog in the summertime in California. And at times you can't even see 2 or 3 feet in front of you. It's kind of where we are right now. We can't really see that far ahead of us. All we know is we got something happening in November, and after that, it's anybody's guess. And we're all trying to sort through this stuff. We've got all these events that are taking place, most of which are manufactured, psychological operations, false flags. We're trying to sort through what's real, what's not real, who's behind it, or are people really dead? Do people really die? Was he a Muslim? Was he an operative of the CIA? Is it the Mossad? This is a very, very tricky time. And so, they say there's a story, this symbolism, right? Like, ride with your high beams on. You can't ride with your high beams on in the fog. In fact, they say you're not supposed to ride with your high beams on in the fog. It creates more reflection, harder to see. So we can't cruise with our high beams. We got to get some fog lamps. And so what's the equivalent of a fog lamp? It's second sight, right? Because your regular lights are your first sight. The fog lamps are your second sight. So we have to develop our second sight, which is really what Neptune is here to do. Because we can't trust anything. Well, what can we trust? We could trust the second sight, which when it's really right, is connected to divine interpretation and spiritual law. And we get those two hooked up, now you can begin to see through some of the crap, some of the fog. So that's where we are. We've got to put the fog lamps on. That's our second sight. You've got a bunch of planets in Sag, don't you?
I'm sure. Because I don't know the exact time that I was born.
But we know your solar chart. When's your birthday again?
January 5th, 1965.
Right. Let's go into the solar chart. What do you think of that analogy, the fog lamps?
Well, I mean, with the second sight, I know that if there's too much, it's hard to really see. So it's hard to, I guess, interpret what's going on if too much is going on all at once.
Too much is that's true. Yeah.
When I compare it to, the fog is, the extra actions, the extra information, the distractions. And I could to when you talking about the high beam will make it where it will be difficult.
That's right.
To see better, because it's just like when you're on hyper alert, you really you're taking in too much, so you're not really seeing what you need to see. Like your focus is off.
That's right. Well, I'm looking at your chart, you've got, this is what I thought, you have Venus and Mercury in Sagittarius, and they're conjunct. Venus 20, Mercury 21. Got that moon in Aquarius and your sun in Capricorn. So the big time for you is really at the end of the year when Saturn hits your Venus and Saturn hits your Mercury. That's a, you know, I've talked about this before, but when Saturn crosses a planet, resets the planet. What's the nature of Saturn? Think of Saturn as pressure. Think of Saturn as contraction. You know, and my analogy is, you know, the orange juice squeezer. You cut your orange in half, you put it in there, and you pull the crank down. And that squeezer, that machine, that press, that's Saturn. And then what you get out of that is the juice. You know, you get the extraction, and then what's left is you've got basically a husk of an orange. But this is what happens when Saturn hits a planet: pressure, extraction, what's ever around. Last time Saturn was on your Venus was 30 years ago.
Yes, I am actually feeling like where I'm at right now. I went through this exactly 30 years ago. I mean, even when you were bringing up Reaganomics and everything that was going on around that time, I could definitely relate to it.
Yeah. Saturn's on your Mercury, will be on your Mercury as well. So it's pressing down on your thinking, your critical processes, and it's demanding that you get really clear. Really clear. What happens when Saturn hits our Mercury in Saturn or Mercury in Saturn, what it does is it contracts your dogma, you know, because Sagittarius is all about belief systems. So you get to discard pretty much what's not working for you mentally. You get to basically go through the last 30 years and look at where's my thought processes, what I've been thinking about, what did I believe in, you know, what did I invest in. Saturn comes along, reset. It's a whole new set of understanding, higher principles, higher order. That's what Sagittarius does. Same with relationships. Now, hopefully, if you've got some legal stuff going on during that time, the end of the year, you get resolution. If you've had anything lingering, you get resolution. That's the nature of this beast. Now,
some things lingering. I hope that they are resolved before the end of the year.
You also have your South Node at 22 Sagittarius. So your South Node is right on your Mercury. Boy, that's interesting. Anytime you get a South Node on a planet, it's like you can't really fully let go of the past. You have this weird kind of karmic dispensation because, you know, if that South Node is floating out there, you know, this ambient aspect, it's easier to go to the North Node because there's nothing hanging around it, right? You say, okay, I got Gemini on my North Node, and I'm here to communicate. I'm here to disseminate information, not wisdom. That's Sagittarius' job. I'm here to write. I'm here to connect with people in my community. This is the true node in Gemini. Sagittarius South Node, big picture, right? The super burrito, the grand paradigm. That's what you're leaving behind. No, you're here to be boots on the ground, sharing information, connecting with other people. But that South Node conjunct Mercury, well, you've got to bring something now. See, this is it. You've got to bring something from your past. Bring something from your past. Hold on one second here. Okay, so you got to bring something from the past, some form of wisdom from some other part of your life or some other lifetime, but you have to break it down. You have to break it down into smaller parts. That's the key here. You know, the big idea must become fractal and shared with everybody that you meet. So this is the challenge, right? You start with the big concept, the big idea, but you've got to funnel it. Funnel into that true node in Gemini. And that's language that people can understand. See, Sagittarius is like the language of law or the language of the Bible. I mean, who really can understand? I mean, get into like Black's Law and try to read that thing. You know?
That's just what I'm doing at this point, because of like the legalities with probate of my mother's will, and understanding where the lawyers, what they're doing. And also my son had gotten some trouble. What he's walking through now, I can relate to it because that was me 30 years ago. And, I would have done everything. I have done anything and everything to try to get him to avoid these life lessons. But I'm looking at him, and it looks like I'm walking through my past.
Interesting.
So, I'm in Blacks, I'm in Bouvier, I'm in everything, just trying to get him to understand this is how things work. This is what you need to know, and this is what you need to do to get yourself together because he's so young. Okay. While at the same time dealing with my own stuff. So it's funny that you would in the law and in even the Bible, because at that time when I struggled, I actually took a corresponding course through the book of John, and it gave me a different type of strength, and I was able to get myself in order.
Yeah. Well,
that's where I was 30 years ago.
That's how astrology works. You get into it, you find the right aspect, and you find the language, and you find the experience that you're going through. Now, with Mercury, with the true node in Gemini, the key for you is to break that down and to share it in terms that other people understand. And that's a big job, but that's what the true node in Gemini does. So good on you for that. And the Saturn...
That's what I'm trying to do within my whole household, but it just seemed like everyone that I'm around, Rob, they're not listening to anything. I just keep it going, though, hopefully that they'll pick up from it. If it's even just to listen to certain shows or listen to certain information, they just seem so uninterested. And this particular son that I've been really concerned with, I mean, I'm concerned for all of them, but this one is the sun that have all them planets in the 12th house.
No, yeah. Boy, that's tough. That's hard. Those 12th house anchors are challenging. Well, do your best.
I am.
Yeah, do your best to try to just break this stuff down. Because if you can do that, then, boy, you've done a life work, really. I think that's kind of what you're here to do, a lot of it. So hang in there with that. Keep doing it.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I sent you a message on Facebook because I had kind of dropped off for a moment because of work and, the load of just trying to get things, I was going with the flow. I was taking the punches and standing up.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm doing the best that I can.
Good. The sobering influence of Saturn making its presence known in your chart. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to take a couple other callers, okay?
Sure. Now, you upload all your shows to YouTube?
Yeah, they're on YouTube now. 11th House on YouTube. Yeah. It's much better than Blog Talk. You can just go in there and listen to them.
I listened to a show on YouTube, so I'm hoping that I could go back and listen to some of the other ones so I could really learn, about the aspect of the house.
Yeah, there's a lot on there. I'm glad we're putting them back on YouTube. Makes it a lot easier for people. So, well, best of luck. I'll come back again and we'll talk, especially as Saturn gets closer to those planets, and we'll find out how you're doing. Okay?
Yeah, I'm still listening. Don't worry, I'm right here.
I'm going to put you on mute.
Okay.
Let's take another call. How about this 850 number? Hi there. Thanks for holding. You're on the show.
Hello.
Yeah, hi there.
How are you, Robert?
I'm good. Who's this?
This is Jenna.
Jenna?
Uh-huh.
Hi, Jenna. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Indiana right now.
Okay, Indiana. How is it there in Indiana? The land of Mike Pence.
No. Well, it's hot and humid.
Hot and humid. Well, what's going on with you? Are you a first-time caller?
I am, yes.
And what drew you to the show tonight, just out of curiosity?
Well, just I enjoy your writings. I'm a Facebook friend, and
No.
I just happened to computer and saw that you were on tonight, so
All right.
I was able to tune in.
Cool. Have you listened? This is your first time. Have you listened before?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, all right. So this is the part of the show where we do some live readings. Is that
Great.
what you want to do?
That would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Let me go to the old software. Let's find an empty space we can do this with. Okay. Okay. If you could share your birthday with me, that would be great.
It is February 24th, 1952, and I was born at 11:17 p.m.
And where was that?
Muncie, Indiana.
Let's see. All right. 24 February 1952, 11:17 p.m., Muncie, Indiana. Here we go. And there you are. Scorpio, rising, sun, moon, conjunction. Look at that. Born on let's see, your sun is at 5. Oh, my gosh. Your moon is 2 degrees away from being a new moon. It is about as disseminating as it can get. Wow, that's intense. You've got Mercury, Sun, Moon conjunction in Pisces, 4th house, true node in, looks like Aquarius. Let me just verify that. Pisces, 0 degrees. So you've got a bunch of Pisces in your chart. You're super sensitive and very, very psychic. Have you been connected to your intuition and psychic abilities for a lot of your life, or what's going on? Like you got a ton of it here in your chart.
I feel that I have, yes.
Was your mother psychic or grandmother psychic?
Not that I'm aware of. It was never talked about. I had my father's mother. I believe she was, but she was kind of, we were brought up by my mother and her mother to believe that the other grandmother worked with, she always went to Camp Chesterfield, which is pretty world-renowned, which is a spiritualist camp, and we were never really allowed to talk to her about anything, but I certainly wish I had have been able to before she passed away.
Well, let's see. You've got that Mars on your ascendant in Scorpio. That's very intense. You have a grand water trine. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's a very powerful trinity of planets in water signs. It makes you quite emotional, but the emotion that you can use for creativity, intention, and actually channeling out into the world. Now, Mars in Scorpio on the ascendant is very powerful in terms of healing as well. Can you turn me down a little bit on your end? I'm a little high. I can hear myself.
Well, I'm on my cell phone. I don't know how to turn it down.
Are you on speaker?
No.
Okay. It's a little better now. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah. Okay. So you got a real interesting chart. You've got a few challenges. You got a T-square with Saturn and Uranus. Generally, Saturn, Uranus, T-squares have to do with, at times, kind of being ahead of your time a little bit and waiting for the world to catch up with Saturn. Occasionally, it can represent some authoritarian issues with Saturn, Uranus squaring off, Uranus being a radical agent in the charts. Over time, you're born in 1952, the energies begin to sort of blend together and they round off so that your personal authority, which is Saturn, is not out of alignment as much with Uranus, which is this very powerful sort of, how do I say this, agent that can bring psychic, psychological, and even at times sleep disruption in the 8th house. So the whole idea with the Saturn-Uranus conjunction over time is you get better at dealing with divergent energies, both inside of yourself and with other people, so that you can kind of ground that Uranian thunderbolt. Uranus 8th house, sometimes retrograde, that can be a really trippy relationship with resources and inheritance, especially with the square. And you've got that Saturn-Neptune wide conjunction. Have you had any issues with any kind of inheritances or kind of personal legacies that you've had to deal with?
Only when my mother passed away and my sister was given more than me, and it didn't getting, but we got over it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Uranus is in Cancer, so it does represent the mother there. And you have Venus in Aquarius. Venus is in the 3rd house, and then it's square Mars. So the 3rd house is siblings. And so you've got relationship energy, pretty powerful relationship energy with siblings in your chart. And the squaring off of Mars is the conflict between the masculine and the feminine and your own will and desire. And that's square with Venus, which would certainly represent siblings in to a large degree. But your relationships would tend to be Aquarian in general and more fraternal than say 7th housey in a lot of ways. So where do you want to go with this? Is there anything I gave you a little taste of the chart. Is there anything that you want me to specifically look at?
Well, I just have gone through the most traumatic time in my entire life, starting last September. I had to move out from my love of my life after 10 years of marriage because of his alcoholism. He was a brilliant man, very educated, many degrees, but I was his caretaker, and just one major hospital stay, one after the other for the past 8 years, and it was just destroying me, my body. I can still barely walk with my back and spine issues.
Right.
And it's just been tragic, really. And I wonder sometimes how I've gotten through this.
What's his sign?
Virgo.
Virgo. It's your opposition. And you have South Node in Virgo. And that can be tricky because you've got very strong True Node in Pisces, 0 degrees. And, sort of the rule of thumb with the nodes is that the opposite node of the South Node, those are people you have challenges with. So,
definitely.
You would be a caretaker for somebody. When's his birthday?
September 8th, 1951.
Okay, so he's right around 15, 16 degrees Virgo without even looking. So 15, 16 degrees Virgo doesn't oppose your Piscean planets per se, although just by the opposition with the nodes, it's tricky, because then you would become definitely a bit of a caretaker. And Pisces is related to all fluids, including things like opiates and alcohol and even over-the-counter prescription drugs if they are liquid-based. So You're carrying a lot of water, fourth house. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope that he can recover and rebound. Good news is that Neptune, your ruling planet, is really getting free and clear of a lot of your fourth house energy with Sun, Moon, Mercury, true node. The furthest one out there is Mercury at 8 degrees, and I believe Neptune has one more pass coming let me just go here. I want to go to 2016. Has one more pass coming back to your natal Mercury, and that can be a little bit tricky on one level because it tests your mental boundaries. So you're letting your guard down a bit with this Neptune. Hold on, I'll give me a sec here. Just going to the ephemeris. Okay, so Neptune goes retrograde, and it goes back to 9 degrees, and it goes retrograde. Well, it's retrograde now, but it's going to hit your Mercury at the end of September, 27th of September. And it stays in retrograde. Yeah, this year. Stays retrograde until
How much more can I take?
Well, this is the last pass. And one of the things that Neptune, and it will go direct on the 20th of November, and then it's moving on. Neptune will not hit your Mercury. It'll be free and clear of all your Piscean planets down in the fourth house. Now, the one thing that you have to keep in mind also is that you're going through this node shift, and the south node is going to hit your transiting south node, hits your natal true node next year in January, late January, early February. And that for you is really kind of the end of this Piscean cycle because, you've had to deal with Neptune crossing all those planets in your fourth house. You become the caretaker. You become the convalescent, or your ex-husband is the convalescent. You become the convalescor. And that's going to be done. That's going to be done. Now, one of the things that you get to practice is you get to practice being compassionate while still working on your boundaries. Not easy.
Right.
It's not easy.
I'm doing that.
This is your practice. But look, you've got Mars in Scorpio on your ascendant. Now, that's tough. I mean, when I say tough, I mean tough like, wow, too bad for you. But tough like you can be tough when you plug into that Mars.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful energy. And it feels to me, from an astrological perspective, that you have so much juice with that Mars and Scorpio on the ascendant, so much chi, plus you're born in the year of the dragon. You're dragon Pisces, and you've got a lot of power. You have a lot of power. And it feels to me like your husband tapped into that.
Yes, he did.
And this is what people do. I mean, look, I saw this with my own father. My own father, married my mother because he knew in his heart of hearts that no matter what he did, she would never leave him.
Right.
And so he could uncoil all of his demons, and she wouldn't leave. She didn't. And this is what people do. And so you found somebody, or somebody found you. You had your bond, and he got into that Mars on the ascendant in Scorpio, and lived off of that. And then what happened after that is you dropped down into your fourth house, and you became essentially a nurse down in the 4th house. You're almost done. You're almost done.
That's good.
Hang in there.
I've been reading something about the 18th of August. Around that time, I'm supposed to be very lucky or something, and I don't gamble, but I thought might be worth buying a lottery
ticket. We were talking about
ticket.
August a little bit earlier. We were talking about, it wasn't the 18th, we were talking about the 22nd, 23rd of August with Mars conjunction of Antares and Saturn. But I can look at that. That's Moon in Aquarius and Sun at 25 degrees. So you're dealing with Leo energy. And Mars right around the 18th of August is at 6 degrees. 6 degrees. And Jupiter, the planet of luck, good fortune, that is, let's see, it's at 25 degrees. So let me take a quick peek at your chart, just see where it all lines up. Jupiter is going to be in your 10th house, which is good. We like Jupiter 10th house transits, especially if you're engaged in any kind of work, helping people, healing, making life better for others. It goes easier and you're rewarded. And other than that, I can't see any specific sort of luck attribution. 5th house, where's your Jupiter? 15 degrees. Yeah, I can't vouch for the August 18th prediction based on what I'm seeing here.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, hang in there, and once Neptune finishes cleaning up your 4th house, you get a little bit of a test on being open and compassionate and discerning, and that's what's going to happen for you.
And what time frame was that, Robert?
Yeah, it's basically cycles through at the end of the year, from November to the end of the year, and then you've got the transiting South Node on your True Node, and that's a major reset, and that's in January of 2017. So that's a major reset for you. You're going to have South Node going over your Sun and your Moon, and you may wind up seeing some suffering. You know, with your ex, you may witness that. That might be very difficult for you.
I've already seen enough of him doing that, but he's in a different state now, so.
Okay. Well, keep your heart open to divine intervention, because there are such things as miracles. I've had a few in my life. And not for him to regain any semblance of himself so that he can be back with you, but for himself, and for his well-being and his soul. So, listen, you hang in there. I'm going to put you back on hold. Thank you for listening. I'm going to try to take one more call before we...
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate you, and I'll keep listening.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We got time for really about one more call, or maybe two if I can speed them along. Let's go to 469. Hi there. Thanks for calling in. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Robert. How are you?
I'm great. Who's this?
This is Robin.
Robin G?
Robin T.
Robin P.
Okay, T is in Tom.
Robin T. Robin Thomason.
Yes.
From Oregon.
Yes, hello. Yes,
what's happening?
Temporarily in Oregon.
Nice to hear your voice.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you for calling in. Robin is a Facebook friend and has a lot of very interesting and spirited comments on some of my posts and such. And you're not a first time listener though.
No, I've listened before. I just thought I would take a chance and call in.
All right. Well, let's roll the dice, Robin.
All right.
Give me your data.
September 26th, 1966.
Okay. 1966. Okay.
12:20 a.m.
12:20 a.m.
Kansas City, Kansas.
Kansas City, Kansas, not Missouri.
No.
All right. Okay. Kansas City, Kansas. All right. Okay, you're on the table.
Okay.
How much do you know about your chart?
I just play with it every now and then. Don't really have anything memorized, though.
So you know you're Cancer rising, right?
Correct.
And Moon in Aquarius and Sun right there, 2 degrees Libra, Mercury in Libra. Another grand water trine here, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. And we got a T-square with Mars, Moon, Neptune. That's an interesting T-square. I like Mars in Leo quite a bit, especially. I like it in the second house. I just like Mars and Leo in general. It's a great place for Mars. So what do you got cooking, Robin? What do you want to look at?
Career.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't think I move around. I travel for work, and just how long am I going to continue to do this since I can't seem to be settled in one area? And I would really love to move out of my current career and do something else, but nothing seems to be opening for me.
Okay. Let me look at this. Well, you have Saturn in the 9th house. That's the house of travel. And and so when we deal with Saturn, there's a number of different sort of definitions and meanings around Saturn. One is obviously professionalism related to 10th house and Capricorn. But I always see Saturn in the 9th house as the planet of the teacher. And the way that Saturn works, in my experience in astrology, is that you get it later in life. Like you get the fruits of Saturn later in life. So it is the highest planet in your chart, which gives it the most prominence. It is also at the apex of the grand trine, the grand water trine. Opposition with all that Virgo stuff you've got, Pluto, Venus, Uranus. So you've got a lot of kind of service, detail-oriented, connections, energy, relationships, contracts down in the 3rd. But I feel like what you really want to do in a lot of ways is get up into your 9th house and instead of travel and having to deal with the kind of the corporate side of what Saturn represents, you could go into more of a teaching mode with Saturn. So in terms of career, you've got Aries on the midheaven, and anybody who's got Aries on the midheaven needs to follow the direction of their will in their career and in their work. Uranus is there, 24 degrees, going retrograde. So it's in square. It'll go back to, I think, around 20. So it's going to square your ascendant. And that's going to happen over the course of the year, this year. And Uranus ascendant square is almost demanding that you make a change. And you've got Mars, that's our friend we were talking about earlier, at 19 Leo. Uranus goes kind of pretty close back. It doesn't quite go exact. It's 1 degree off. So there's an impetus to be more creative, more dynamic. And it's hard at times for Cancer rising people to change. We were talking about Cancer a little bit earlier. And Cancer rising people tend to have routines. They tend to get kind of locked in to the things that they know on an emotional level. Uranus wants to blow that up a little bit, up on the roof of the chart. So it's exploding, wants to explode who you think you are on a day-to-day level. And there is an element of risk associated with an Aries midheaven to begin with, but when Uranus is up there, it wants to shake things up. So at some point, you will have to address really your will and what it is that you want to do with that energy and bringing it into the world. I think that with Saturn in your ninth house, and we've got this Jupiter opposition coming up because your Saturn is at what, 25? Jupiter's at 21. So by the end of the month, you're going into a Jupiter-Saturn opposition. That's a major, Jupiter's not going to come around again for another 10 years. So what happened to you 10 years ago with your career?
Well, just a sudden shift in where I thought I wanted to go.
And that happened 10 years ago?
That happened 10 years ago. So just felt a little bit lost and disoriented. Mm-hmm. And then just fell back into what I knew. And I'm not really happy with that. I do want to do something different. And I'm not afraid of change. It's just, I don't know what to replace it with.
Sure.
That is what I struggle with.
We get Saturn in the ninth house. We're dealing with things like, well, travel, obviously, and you do that with your gig, but also, law. We've talked about law tonight. Universities, colleges. This to me, and I know this sounds kind of funky or weird, but this is an interesting energy to be connected with, like religious or spiritual organizations, maybe even churches, doing some kind of fundraising or being involved with them at more of an organizational level, which might be, I don't know, it might be interesting for you. But we get to Saturn, we get into formalization. And in the ninth house, you're dealing with all these Sagittarian kinds of potentialities. And Pisces is all about, dissolving and religion and connecting to, it's esoteric religion. So if you want to go structure, form, content, you want to look into anything with higher mind, anything with higher learning, and anything connected to organizations and structures that have a spiritual or religious function in the world. And Saturn would allow you to come in at a level that could be respected and professional. Now, ultimately, I think that this is a teaching aspect. And you might have a glimpse into that with this Jupiter opposition. Chiron is right up there right now. It's on your natal Saturn. So again, when you get into Chiron, you get into the Saturn-Uranus dichotomy because Chiron is happening. So part of you wants to break free with Uranus, especially with Uranus in the 10th. Part of you needs that structure and form with Saturn. You're in an interesting place, very interesting place.
Okay.
And Jupiter is at 29 Cancer, but we just had the Sun on your natal Jupiter on the 22nd of July. That would have been a very interesting time for you in terms of opening up your intention of what you want to do. And you've got a grand water trine, and I think intention is very, very important. Because water trines, you're getting into, drawing things to you like waves. Waves are coming in. I don't know. I just keep getting this teacher place for you a bit later.
Okay.
And it might be sooner than you think, actually. Career, look at colleges, look at universities, look at any spiritual or religious group that you could come in at an organizational level and help them with. And between those two kind of places, I believe that could be your entree into some level of teaching at some point in time. But I'm not talking about teaching at a college. But it's a transference. of teaching. Anyway, we're going to have to jump off here because the show's ending.
Sure, I understand. Thank you so much for your time. But yes, that makes sense.
Okay, good. Well, listen, I'll see you on Facebook, Robin. Thank you for dropping in.
Okay, then. You're welcome. Good night.
Take care. All right. So with that, we come to the end of our show. It's been a great show. I really enjoyed connecting with you all through the voice and the mind and the spirit. Let's do it again next Sunday night. We've got the webinar coming up this weekend. And again, you can go to my website, robertphoenix.com. If you want to get the 11th House Academy, just go in there, sign up, and use the code FAR10, F-A-R-10, and you will get a discount. You'll get a 10% discount on the course. And again, if you want to get my retrograde reading special for the next 72 hours, go to my website, send me an email, and we'll work it out so you get the old rate, but it's got to be the next 72 hours. Everybody's on hold. I apologize I couldn't get to you in time, but we always have a show next week. I'll try to get you in. If not, come to my website, and we'll do this just between me and you. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and here is Philip K. Dick.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.